Hey guys, welcome back to this place. And if you are new, then welcome here for the very first time. I'm Carmen, and today is going to be a little bit different because unfortunately I have lost the footage of my reaction for episode 5 of The Expanse. I am currently trying to recover it, but I have not been able to recover it yet. And so I thought I would go ahead and do this review of episode 5 just in case I'm unable to recover it. If I do recover it, I will upload it and, of course, let y'all know. But until then, like I said, I just wanted to go ahead and have this review for y'all. I'm really sorry. I feel like a really huge idiot for losing this footage, but hopefully I've learned a lesson and it won't happen again. So without any further ado, let's just get into the review of this episode. I do really quickly want to say a huge thank you to all of the Expanse fans who have welcomed me with such open arms into your fandom and your family, I guess, in a way. So, yeah, just thank you. It honestly means a lot. I get really excited to record this show and to get to talk to y'all about it. So, yeah. Let's talk about it. Okay, so one of the biggest things of episode 5 was finding out about Fred Johnson, who we met in the last episode, but really got to know in this episode. He's called the Butcher of Anderson Station, which we also saw flashbacks to Anderson Station and learned how he got that nickname, which I will talk about in just a second. But yeah, he is the one who, in this episode, he signaled it's not a shuttle, y'all said, it's like a freight, I think, that they are on, and he offered them refuge at Tyco, I believe. And yeah, he offered them refuge, and Naomi was very, very against it, fervently against it, to the point where I thought that maybe she has some sort of past with Fred Johnson, which we haven't learned in this episode if that's true or not. But I wonder if she or somebody she knows was on Anderson Station. Presumably maybe someone she knew, because it doesn't seem like there were any survivors of Anderson Station, at least not that we know about right now. So Anderson Station is, or was, I think it was an ore mining facility. And essentially the workers, after having really horrible conditions, decided to stage a sort of riot, maybe you would call it, or a walkout, a protest, that sort of thing. And they stopped working, they took over the station, and a few people got hurt, but that wasn't their intention. They never intended to hurt anybody. They were just trying to fight for their children, because their children were developing this thing called hypoxic brain injury, which is a brain injury that is a result of low oxygen. And they were trying to protest for better conditions for their kids, because they were obviously very worried about their kids and they wanted them to have the best that they could possibly have. So they protested, and the UN 1, I think, is the station that Fred Johnson was a part of. And he said, if you surrender, nobody will get hurt. We will let you basically wave the white flag and everything's going to be fine, just as long as you surrender. And they didn't want to, but push came to shove. They wanted to protect their children, and they did, in fact, surrender. However, the promise of everybody being allowed to safely surrender and it being all copacetic and everything was a lie. And Fred Johnson with or without the consent of everyone else in the UN on the UN thing. Maybe he was the captain, so he got to decide. Long story short, he did not let them surrender peacefully. He blew up the station. He killed probably everybody there and earned the nickname the Butcher of Anderson Station. So this is the guy that they're going to go to, because they did eventually decide that they didn't really have any other options. They could go to this guy, or they could go to the Mars station, literally just Mars. Or they could go to a Mars outpost, I think. But that's not going to be a great idea, Holden says, because people are probably not going to believe that they had nothing to do with both the, oh gosh, what is it called? The Canterbury and the Donager being destroyed. So they're going to try to seek help with, or asylum, or help, with Fred Johnson on Tyco Station. And I believe Tyco is the station where we saw him last episode preparing to ship off the Mormons somewhere. So that's going to be interesting. And we're going to see if we can trust Fred Johnson. He's a known member of the OPA, which, again, as we've talked about before, good, bad, it is what it is. So I'm going to be really interested to see if we can trust him going forward. Obviously, that story, that nickname, does not bode well, but people can change, maybe. He did threaten the Mormons, like literally one episode ago, so I don't know. We're going to have to see. Another big thing that happened in this episode was Havelock being okay, Miller knowing that. As of course we already knew Havelock was alive, but we saw he's recovering with the help of his girl Gia, and Miller knows that as well now, and he's not really doing a whole lot about it, at least not that we've seen, which is a bit frustrating to me because I want them to be like partners and friends, so I want him to go to bat for him, to have his back, to want to find these people who hurt him and all that stuff. But right now, Miller is very focused on Julie Mao and what secrets she has to offer and what the connection is with the Canterbury, because he knows, I think, that there's a connection. So I understand why he is wrapped up in this, but again, it's a bit frustrating. That being said, we also saw him have a conversation with Anderson Dawes, and Dawes is basically, mob boss of the OPA on Ceres Station, it kind of seems, and he gave him a device and said, hey, here's the guy who, stabbed Havelock. You help me, I'll help you. Like, here's the location of where he is. Here's everything. If he gets off this station, you probably won't be able to find him. So he extended this bit of information and essentially said, you take this information, you use it, and you'll owe me one down the line. He wants to work with Miller to be in the pocket of the cops' pocket, to be in bed with the cops, I mean. So we'll see how that works out, as obviously we know that Miller threw that away at the end, and instead he talked to that guy that knew Julie, and he eventually figured out that the rat is probably where she hid the secret info, and so he got the info out of the rat and put it in his hat, funnily enough, and almost immediately after that got kidnapped. So hopefully they don't take his hat, because then he has none of the information essentially that he fought and struggled so hard to get. Something that might be a smaller part of the episode, but that I thought was interesting, was the fact that they now know what we already knew, which is that Holden has sort of become the involuntary face of this movement. And so any sort of anonymity that they would hope to have going forward into places like talking with Fred Johnson or Tyco is negated by the fact that his face is literally everywhere. Literally. Like, you ain't getting away from that. Also, I talked about it a little bit earlier, but Miller got kidnapped at the end of this episode. Full on, bag over the head. They're taking him somewhere to an undisclosed location. He's probably going to get beat up and tortured for some sort of information. Now, I wonder if that was on Dawes' orders, because he knows that he threw away the thing and therefore is like kind of saying, I'm not going to work with you. I'm just going to do this shit on my own, and he doesn't want to be in bed with Dawes, so to speak. So I'm curious if that's who he was kidnapped by and why. And if not, if the people who kidnapped him don't want him to know about the things that he's learning about, and therefore might have something to do with what's going on and the Borg ship. Maybe. I don't know. Another slightly smaller part of this episode that I really liked was when they're trying to figure out what to name the ship. And I noticed that they said Alex suggested Screaming Firehawks, which I know because people have mentioned it in the comments before, is what they call the fandom. The fans are the Screaming Firehawks. So I don't know. I just thought that was kind of cool, and I recognized it from comments when he said it. So I got a little bit excited, and I was like, oh, this is where it's from. Like, it's always fun to have that in a show when you realize something like that, you know. They ended up naming the ship Rosente, I think, which apparently means workhorse in Spanish, and Holden suggested it, and Amos liked it because he used to know a woman named Rosente, who I think he said was kind to him. And I'm really interested because this is a little tidbit about Amos, which we didn't know before, because we don't know almost anything about Amos. So any sort of tidbit about any of them, I'm really interested in, and it makes me excited to want to learn more. We also learned a little bit about Julie Mao, that on Callisto, I think, she went into the mines and was willing to put herself on the line in order to save these people, which leads me to believe that she wouldn't be involved in an organization that was plotting to kill or hurt people. So I think if she is alive, then she's being held captive by the Borg. All right, y'all, I think that is all I have to talk about in this episode. I'm really interested in where this story is going to go. I'm really interested to find out who the Borg really actually are and what their motives are going forward. I want to know more about Fred Johnson, if he really is this kind of shitty butcher guy, if that's who he still is, rather. I want to know who took Miller and what the fuck they want with him. Because, again, like I said before, it could be multiple people. It could be Anderson Dawes, or it could be the people who know what happened to Julie Mao. Or it honestly could even be the cop people who don't want him pursuing this because he's not authorized to pursue this, and he hasn't been given orders to pursue it, right? I want to see what happens to our people who are currently on board the freighter or whatever from the Donager. Yeah, I'm curious, and I want to know, and I want to watch the next episode so I can know all of these things. But until then, let me know what y'all thought about this episode in the comments down below. Once again, I'm so sorry that I have hopefully temporarily, but possibly permanently, lost the footage of my reaction to this episode. I thought it was really, really good. And yeah, I think that's it. So until next time. Oh wait, let me know what, I already say that. I'm losing my mind. All right, until next time. Bye guys.